I've been getting sent a lot of videos from this girl, Trinh Nguyen, and today we're going to visit her 5 good things and 5 bad things about living in Vietnam. Let's get into the video today.
Number 1, there's always a local market where you can buy. It's so cheap to buy the banana.
I'm sorry, guys. She called them bananas. I had to. When it comes to the markets, this is kind of something cool about Vietnam is there are markets everywhere in Vietnam. It doesn't matter how rich your neighborhood is or how poor your neighborhood is. I lived in Go Vap, a very upper class area, right? And there were still like 4 or 5 like markets around me, and some of them were like ultra ghetto, but there's always a market, and the stuff's usually extremely cheap. Like if you're a vegan, 50,000, which is like what, $2.50 will give you enough food for the day. It's ridiculous. If you eat meat, if you eat chicken or pork or stuff like that, 100,000, like $5 will get you enough food for the day. It's actually rather insane. Like with me personally, I ate a lot of chicken wings and like chicken legs because I was working out at the time. And I would spend like $5 every 3 days and just buy boatloads of chicken. And then the vegetables, like $1, $2 a day. I never realized how many markets Vietnam truly has. There is a market everywhere in Vietnam. I'm currently out here in Thailand, and it is actually really hard to find a market. I have to go like 4 kilometers to find a market. Vietnam, I just need to go around the right corner.
2, our Vietnamese strays, friendly, helpful, loving, united, and patriot. So in Vietnam, if you get sick or have a motorbike problem or get lost, people wouldn't mind getting out of their way to help you. Or like they can just invite you to their family dinner, even if you're a stranger to them, and treat you like an honored guest.
I intentionally pulled out the political part of what she was saying. It wasn't nothing bad, but I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it because I think a lot of people that live in Vietnam don't understand what's going on in Vietnam with that respect. Like, it's kind of like me as an American. Growing up in America, I didn't truly understand the good and the bad of America until I left America and lived in a different country. You know what I mean? So, real quick, though, let's get on to the good stuff about what she was talking about. 1, traffic. If you get into an accident, like, I found that funny. She says everyone will stop and help you. Everybody will stop and rubberneck and take pictures of you. Will they help you? No. People typically will not get involved because they might actually get involved by accident, and that can start costing Vietnamese people money, time, or even stress they don't want to deal with. So when there is an accident, people will stop. And if you've lived in Vietnam, you've witnessed this countless times where there's an accident and there's just like a big bubble of bikes just surrounded by the accident. All they're doing is gossiping. They're not actually like calling 911 or calling the police or calling the ambulance. Usually that's the last thing they even talk about. It's like, what happened? Whose fault was it? Oh wow, look at her watch. She must be rich. Like stuff like that goes on. So the second part though, she talked about people invite you to their house. This is something I love about Vietnam. Vietnam is the only country I've ever visited in all of Asia where you could go to a bar by yourself with $5, buy a beer, walk up to a random ass table full of Vietnamese dudes, do the Mo Hai Bio, sit down, and get drunk out of my mind, get a full belly, and then wake up at somebody's house sleeping on their couch because we were having a house party. Only Vietnam does this happen. And what I'm trying to apply here is in Vietnam, people love to invite you over. Especially Western people. They will invite you to their table, give you free beer, free food. Do you give them money for this stuff? I try. Like, I might even slip money under the table, or I might go do the tip for them. There's been a few times when I was at Lai Cho where I actually went up to the waitress and I paid the bill without telling them because there was reasons for it. I'm not going to get into it, but I ended up paying for it. And sometimes you just have to accept that they just want to be nice, and you being there, you talking to them, being broken ass English was enough value for them to not care about the financial base of it. So that is something cool. Vietnamese people love to invite Western people over to talk. You could go to Vietnam and just like make friends in the first 30 seconds of being anywhere, and they are there for you, kind of a thing. So super friendly. Now in regards to the politics, this is going to go back to what I said earlier when I was like, I didn't understand America until I truly left. Vietnam politics is quite difficult. I have to be careful what I'm saying because I do want to visit again sometime. The government is, I don't know how to say any of this, guys. Okay, let me say this. There's the North, there's the South. There's a lot of disagreement on what actually happened from the North going down to the South. People call this the Vietnam War. When you actually move to Vietnam, you start realizing when you learn to speak Vietnamese that the people have a different view of the war than American people would even imagine would be something to think about. When you hear me say sometimes Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City, and Vietnamese people do this only in the South, mind you. They don't, in the North, they don't call it Saigon ever. It's never heard of. But in the South, they do. And there's a reason for it. And I'll give you a 3-word phrase if you want to look into it. It's called 3-stick people. After the war, the politics of Vietnam got very etchy. Vietnam is a communist country. And I think a lot of Western people don't understand that. And living in Vietnam as a Westerner is an awesome thing. Dude, everything's cheap. You can literally get away with anything in Vietnam as a Westerner. But when you become a citizen, and you can't, so don't even bother trying. But if you could become a Vietnamese citizen, you give up so much. And understand, majority of Vietnamese people want to leave Vietnam. If they had the chance to leave Vietnam, a lot of them do. And I'm not saying, it's not that Vietnam's bad. Not at all. That is definitely not what I'm saying. And if you want to learn more about it, my advice to you, learn the language and talk to people. And don't get into an echo chamber. Talk to everybody. You know, but don't go up to them and be like, hey, Ho Chi Minh, what do you think? Go. Don't do stuff like that. Typically, politics comes up whenever you're drinking with guys and you speak Vietnamese. And there's a lot of tension between the North and the South in this regard. And there's also a lot of tension from the pre-war people. This is the reason why you'll hear in the South they call it Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City. There is a big reason why that happens. I will leave it at that. Let's get to number 3 on what she thinks is good about living in Vietnam.
3 different types of geography, from beautiful beaches, breathtaking mountains.
Okay, this is a quick one. If she watches this video, she's gonna hate this one. Vietnam has all that. It has waterfalls, highways, peaks, all that stuff. The problem with Vietnam is it's overly polluted. When you start driving to these spots, like she showed a lot of images that I'm pretty sure were professionally done by people that were doing it for money or a movie or like something. Vietnam has to be one of the dirtiest countries I've ever seen, period. Vietnam is just so dirty, and unfortunately nobody cares. Like if you go to the San Diego, if you go to the Saigon Zoo, like people are throwing soda cans at the alligators and stuff, you know what I mean? Like nobody it's a culture issue. Like people in Vietnam do not care about pollution. Vietnamese will always keep their house clean. They'll always wash their car 8 times a week. They will always wash their brand new Airblade 3 times a week. You know, they will never let the kids touch anything brand new like the TVs and stuff like that. And the living room is being swept like 8 or 9 different times during the day. Yeah, because they sleep on it, but also it's kind of the display of the house, right? But as soon as you walk outside the front gate of their house, it's just loaded with their trash. So this is kind of a weird part about Vietnam. It's just, Vietnam has so much potential to be one of the most beautiful countries in all of Asia. I mean that. It would top Japan. It would top Singapore. It would top Malaysia. But unfortunately, Vietnam doesn't know how to pick up after themselves. Most Vietnamese people you talk to will unfortunately tell you the government will do it. It's the government's job. There's no accountability. If you throw trash on the ground and you expect the government to come pick it up for you, you're ridiculous. So in regards to her comment that Vietnam has a lot to see, is beautiful, there is a lot to see, but unfortunately it's not that beautiful. I mean, Ha Long Bay, Can Tho areas, like the Mekong area down by Can Tho. You go to Dalat City, like get out of the tourist, we go to actually Dalat City, Sapa, like all these places are like shithole. And it's not because of the government not picking up the trash, it's because the people won't stop throwing the shit on the ground. The people don't care enough to keep it clean. And like I said, if you talk to Vietnamese people about it, you will hear more excuses than a 5th grader forgetting his homework. It's sad for a country that's very nationalist, that loves their country, is so fast to actually destroy their own country.
Number 4, I love that our government keeps progressing every day, from making the paperwork process more easily to fighting against corruption. They listen more and action better. Okay,
so you saw the reaction. I have to be careful with this. So I lived in Vietnam during the pandemic. You see some of my videos from like 2 years ago. We were in Phu Mai at the time and Vung Tau area. Well, and then I moved back to it's a little town called Lazi. Or Lagi, I guess, if you're in the South. And we dealt with the government a lot because Lagi was the first place to get the massive COVID, like, infections, like a lot. Like, people were getting in Phan Thiet and taking buses overnight to come to our town to hide. That was when I think the local people start realizing how bad the government was. In general, the government making things easy, no. I don't know what she's talking about. Like, I watched her clip on this like 3 times, and no. Like, I opened 2 different companies in Vietnam. It's not, it doesn't get any easier. They ask for more bribe money the more richer you are, as they call it. Getting anything done is impossible. And it's funny to me too, because when you get government documents, it'll say on the very top of the paper, the socialist country, well, no, the Republic Socialist Country of Vietnam, or something like that. I forget. But Vietnam is not a socialist country at all. It is definitely not republic. Anyways, I've lived in countries that are full socialist. I've lived in countries that are republic, as they call it. I've lived in countries that are full on communism. And Vietnam is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, a communist country. And with that follows what comes with it. To be a nationalist and love your country is fine. But to say that the government is there for you is far-fetched.
5, family oriented. In every Vietnamese family, we always have days that we gather together.
So this one I kept short because she was just she got to the point in the family. But in regards to like family, like Vietnamese are very family oriented. It's really cool actually. Like, you know, like here well, not here, but in the West, when we turn 18, we are out the house, right? Like we're like, woo, we're free. And in Vietnam, it's not like that. Like, it's typical to live with your parents till you're 25, 30 years old. Pretty much till you're married. Like, honestly, if you don't get married till you're 35, then you might be living with your mom and dad till you're 35. And to the West, that sounds weird. But in Vietnam, it's not a bad thing at all. It's very strong. And I think those people, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, said that. Like, the reason they're so successful is because they kept their family united. So I totally agree with what they do. Now, I will tell you this funny phrase. I don't know. I forgot if she talked about this or not, though. But if you do get married in Vietnam, understand you're not marrying her. You are marrying that family. So get to know the family, and especially get to know the mother and father-in-law. Out of all the married friends I've ever known, 3 of them got divorced. They were married to Vietnamese women, obviously. It was always because of the mother-in-law. It had nothing to do with the wife. So keep that in mind. Family traditions are good. They're very different than the West. You never get rid of the family. If your mission is to move to Vietnam, get married to the girl, kind of push the family aside, and you do your Western version of it all, it's not going to happen very easily. Even if you leave and you go to like America or Canada or something like that, the family's gonna like digitally stay on your ass. And again, it's a good thing. It builds strong community, and I think that's awesome, man. Like when you have a child in Vietnam, the family helps you raise it. When you're having financial issues, the family comes together. Like during the whole pandemic lockdown is when I really saw Vietnamese families come together and help each other out, because everybody was effed. Everybody was poor at this point, you know. It's because a lot of Vietnamese were coming over to my house giving me free food, you know, like here, please have some food, we know it's hard, you know, and stuff like that was just, it's ridiculously amazing. And that's the beauty of Vietnam culture, like the culture of it. And after the pandemic was over, we had the biggest block party you could imagine, and I bought so much food, so much beer. We just partied, because to me, I didn't have access they had. I couldn't buy vegetables and give it to the neighbors, you know what I'm saying? Like they had that access, I didn't. After everything was open, I threw the biggest party for everybody, and it was the coolest thing in the world, because everyone had nothing, and I was able to provide something for the rest of the community. So definitely a very big family thing when it comes to Vietnam. I kind of went on a tangent there, but do remember this, if anything. If you marry the girl, you marry the family. All right, guys, so that is for the 5 good. Because this is going to be a long video, I'm going to break this up to the good and the bad. So this is our good one. Check the video up here. I'm going to post them at the same time so you guys can see them both. So check out the 5 bad things she thinks about, and we're going to talk about that. But with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed these 5 good things. Let me know below, what did you think about her version, which is the Vietnamese female version, compared to this crazy white dude from America that's just lived in Vietnam for a long time's opinion. Thanks for watching. Till then, I will see you again.